I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson. Here. Ruth Groff. Here. Ron Losi.
Here.
Joseph Wetmore.
Here.
Edward Levine.
Here. Can everyone hear me okay? Rowan?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
So far so good. Hopefully that's a good sign of the year to come. So we have item 4 on the agenda, privilege of the floor. I don't see anybody here live in person. CJ, do you have anybody in the waiting room?
Nope.
Okay, let's move on to number 5. The consent agenda. Mrs. Munson, could you walk us through that again, please?
Sure. Okay, so there's not too many in the consent agenda tonight. Usually you have somebody read 2 or 3 of them. We just read the titles of them. And then we do the motion and the second and the voting at the end.
Okay, so there are 9 altogether. So Andrea, you want to do A and B first?
Sure. Motion authorizing town supervisor to execute grant agreement between Park Foundation and Town of Lansing. B, motion authorizing town supervisor to request confirmation of the session of Yuga Operating Company and direct staff to make.
It's really hard to hear Andra on the internet here.
Well,
I guess I'll read them without my mask.
That's way better.
That's way better.
Seriously.
Motion authorizing town supervisor to execute grant agreement between Park Foundation and Town of Lansing. B, motion authorizing town supervisor to request confirmation of secession of Yuga Operating Company and direct staff to make filings.
Bronwyn, will you please read C and D?
Sure. C, motion authorizing town supervisor to execute memorandum of agreement with Cuba Lake Watershed Intermunicipal Organization. D, motion authorizing issuance of open space index and conservation plan request for qualifications, RFQ.
Ruth, will you please do E and F?
Yes, E, motion scheduling a public hearing on proposal local law number 1 of 2022, expand residency requirements for certain appointed town officials and employees. F, resolution approving website and data migration contract with Unicode.
Okay, Joe, will you do the last 3, G, H, and I, please?
Certainly. G, resolution declaring excess property and authorizing disposal or sale. H, resolution reappointing members to the Town Parks and Recreation / Trails Advisory Committee. I, resolution approving audit and budget modifications and supervisors report.
Okay, so Mrs. Munson, I'm getting a motion on second now, correct?
Yes.
Someone like I make a motion to
I'll move it.
second?
Sure.
I'll second. I'll fighting for it.
You said a second, right?
Yep. Well, we have enthusiasm tonight here. Okay. Okay, Mrs. Munson.
Andrew Benson.
Yes.
Ruth Groff.
Yes,
Ron Losi.
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore.
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. Okay, the thing we've all been waiting for. Number 6, the organizational resolutions. I think we can just read the resolution and not go into all the details. Does anybody object with that suggestion? Hey, Mrs.
I'm not
Munson,
clear what you're saying we're going to read.
Well, do we need to read anything? I would recommend, I think, organization, just read the resolution. If that, or how do you want to do it?
Well, I have a question. So are you wanting to read them before we get into that, is what you're saying?
Oh, go ahead, because I want to know what the procedure is. If we have to read word by word, but we read word by word, but my memory fails me if that's what we did last year or not.
I don't remember. I don't know that we read it all, but like, I'm just saying, yeah, I have a question about one of the particular resolutions in here. So do you want to wait until we get to it, or do you want to just jump around as we have questions? How do you want to handle that?
Don't jump around.
No, we don't want to jump around.
I think that my recollection is we just read enough of the resolution so we know what it was about. And if somebody had a question about that resolution, they would
Right.
ask it then and resolve it.
And I think at the end, what we did is we did a group motion and second and voted on it. I don't think we had to do we don't even have to do a moved it, seconded and vote on every resolution individually. I think we did that at the end. And I think if my memory serves me right, that was actually the catalyst to talk about consent resolutions down the road, which we're now implementing. So I would say briefly read the resolutions. If you want to do it that way. And we can go around the horn and do one each. We'll start with maybe Andra, then go to Brownman, Ruth, Joe, and myself, and keep rotating around till we get to the end. If someone wants to stop and discuss something, we can do it that way. If it's comfortable with all the board members, let's put it that way.
Well, let's try it and see how it works.
Okay,
Looking at the first one, you would like me then to read all the resolved, right?
Yep.
Okay. Resolved that the supervisor is authorized and directed to have all town financial records and justice court records and dockets audited in accord with the law. And it is further resolved that the supervisor make a report hereof to the town board, file its findings, and reports with the town clerk, and file an official certified report in accord with law. All is referenced or required by or under general municipal law number 30 and town law 29 and 129. And it is further resolved that the supervisor be authorized and permitted in lieu of preparing his financial report under town law section 29, parentheses 10, to submit to the town clerk on March 31st, 2022, a copy of the report to the state controller required by section 30 of the general municipal law.
okay. Not to be nitpicky, but I think it was law 30, 29, and 123, unless I misheard it.
29, I said that, 123.
Okay.
Yeah.
Misheard it. Okay. Brahman, resolution 22-07.
Sure. Resolution 2207, resolved that the municipal crime policy be obtained and underwritten by NYMER and be approved as the following amounts for the following public officers. I, 55,000 for court clerks, or one, 55,000 for court clerks, 2, 55,000 for the town bookkeeper and assistants and part-time tax collector, if any, and 3, 1,190,000 for the Lansing receiver of taxes and deputy receiver of taxes.
Okay. Now that we group number 8.
Resolved that the supervisor appoints the fire chief and company captains of the town, the superintendent of fires, and alternate superintendent of fires.
Okay, Joe, number 9.
I would like to ask a quick question about what our relationship is between the fire department and the town. If we're appointing fire chiefs, what's our responsibility therein?
Guy, I think we had this question before, and I think you've explained it at other board meetings. Could you perhaps jump into this discussion, please?
Sure, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert on fire districts and fire chiefs, but basically towns are supposed to appoint various people to do various type of inspections and to serve as in certain functions. So we have a fire department. It is associated with a fire district. It's a separate taxing jurisdiction. It's a separate legal authority. But we appoint a fire chief who coordinates fire activities for us. That range can be any number of things, from inspections to emergency coordination to 911 assignments to advising the town on issues pertaining to fire preparedness or fire safety. And it also makes a designation under the state and county all hazard mitigation plan as to who they go to in the event of a like a fire type event in or affecting Lansing. So it's a general designation, and generally it's traditional that we just agree with whoever the company has appointed as their chief, but it doesn't always work that way. And I don't really know all the variations on the theme, but if you're a fire protection district as opposed to a fire district or a water supply district, the rules are slightly different. But that's sort of a nutshell on it. And if you want more, I do have a book just on fire district law and can look it up or provide it to you to cure any insomnia problems you may have.
Quickly, I know we're required by New York State to have everybody do various, sexual harassment training and violence protection training and all that. Can we require that of the fire chief? Are we obligated to make sure the fire chief does that, or are they a separate entity and they're responsible themselves?
They're a separate entity. They're a separate legal entity. They're a separate taxing authority, a separate district. They have to have their own compliance. They're, in that respect, they're like any number of public authorities, like Lansing Housing Authority or any like the New York State Thruway Authority. The Thruway Authority would have its own compliance rules. I would assume, but I do not know, that the fire department has mandatory sexual harassment training, mandatory workplace violence training, and in fact, probably a lot of trainings that we know nothing about. But they're a separate, what in the law is called a separate jural entity. They have a separate corporate and political existence. So that question should go to them. And obviously, if there's a problem, they should be encouraged to get their folks in compliance.
Okay, I'm just seeing if we're responsible or whether they're separately responsible. I assume that they're following through on the various trainings. I know they've got tons of them. I just wanted to make sure that when we pass this, we're not taking on an obligation that we need to follow up on. Thank you.
So
Sure.
you mentioned the Lansing Housing Authority falls into that same category.
Well, I know that question popped out there earlier, and yes, the Lansing Housing Authority is it's a public, it's not a division of the town. It's not under the control, management, or authority of the town. It's an entity which has a separate jural existence under a law that arises under the Public Authorities Law. So they too have to have their own compliance programs and their own certification programs for a good number of things. They have additional trainings as well, being in the public housing market that we don't have, being a town. But yes, they're not within our jurisdiction because of the way public housing authorities are structured. The municipality that sponsors them, i.e. has bonding authority and other things that help them fulfill their mission, has appointment authority for their board, but that's an independent board.
Okay, but my understanding is the assets of the housing authority are considered part of the town's assets, whereas I think the fire department's assets are separate than the town's assets.
I actually don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but I'm not sure it would change the calculus.
I'm not sure it is either. I'm trying to wrap my head around these organizations that are quasi-separate, but not completely separate. And I don't really understand the separation, and I'm just trying to get a better idea of it.
Well, you're diving knee deep into the question of why New York has something like 39,000 variants of what are called local units of government, or whatever the number is. I don't remember what it is, but it's
more than three.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but yes, there's lots of interconnections like this. And the question is, when it comes to sexual harassment training, are they under the authority and control of the town? So something like a liaison where they are appointed by the town, they serve for the town and report back to the town. They're not specifically mentioned in the labor law or in the sexual harassment law, but the description of who's covered and what is an employee or contractor is written purposefully broad. And I think it would catch those people because we have authority over them. We're appointing them and they report back to us. We're not appointing them and they report to a completely separate and independent authority that has jurisdiction over whether they keep or don't keep their job. Like, we can appoint whoever we want as a fire chief, but if we fail to appoint the same fire chief as the fire company, it doesn't mean that we've replaced the fire company's fire chief. They're actually a separate nonprofit corporation that contracts with a fire district. It gets really squirrely, and the real problem of it, if you bury it all in and get back to the roots of it, is that unfortunately New York State is still structured on a body of law that largely governed its incorporative phases in the 1800s and early 1900s. That's why we have water districts, because towns are not charged by law in New York with supplying water and sewers to its citizen. It's not their duty. They don't have the right to do it. They have to form a special district, a separate unit of government to do it. Why that's like that, when water and sewer would be considered the most basic needs that a local government should attend to, I can't tell you, but welcome to New York. That's the way it works.
Okay. Thank you. I
But
think
if you
that
have more
answers my
questions, certainly fire them off and I can get a quick answer. There's a book right on my shelf. That's South America behind me, but I was pointing to my bookshelf.
I understand. Okay. Resolution 2209, resolved that Harris Beach LLP be approved as bond counsel for the town and that they be consulted on an as-need basis. Resolution 2210, resolved that the Tompkins Community Bank, HSBC, M&T Bank, JP Morgan Bank, Chase Bank, and the Cuba Lake National Bank be designated as depositories for the town of Lansing.
Okay, good. I'll do the next one, considering. So this is resolution 22-11. Resolved that Andrew Benson is acknowledged as deputy supervisor to serve at the pleasure of the town supervisor, such being initially intended as an annual appointment to act on behalf of the supervisor if he is ill, or she, in this case he, or unable to act in his or her position, and the sum of B and hereby is approved as compensation incident to such office. And resolved that the town clerk shall administer the oath of office for such position. Andrew, would like to do the next one?
Okay. You know I'm in it.
Oh, the next one also?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do the next one. So this is number 12, 22-12. Resolved that the supervisor and councilperson Andrew Benson are authorized to sign checks drawn on all accounts except the justice accounts, town clerks, and the Lansing receiver of taxes. The town clerk and supervisor be authorized to sign checks on the town clerk's checking account and the Lansing receiver of taxes checking account. The town justices be authorized to sign checks on the town justice accounts at the Tompkins Community Bank. And it is further resolved that the supervisor, code budget officer, bookkeeper, and informational aide in supervisor's office be authorized to make transfers on all town accounts and wire transfers that are necessary throughout the year, except the Lansing receiver of taxes checking account, the town clerk's checking account, and the town justice accounts at the Tompkins Community Bank. And it is further resolved that the supervisor, code budget officer / bookkeeper, and informational aide in the supervisor's office are hereby authorized to use the services provided by the Tompkins Community Bank, entitled anytime access and internet banking on all town accounts except the town clerk's checking account, Lansing receiver of taxes checking account, and town justice accounts. And it is further resolved that the town clerk and deputy town clerk are authorized to make inquiries on the Lansing water and sewer district accounts, and the clerk and the court clerks are authorized to make inquiries on the town justice accounts. Phew, okay, next one, Andrew.
Resolved that the Roberts Rules of Order for deliberative assemblies, 11th edition, are followed. However, 1, voting being alphabetical order by last name of the supervisor voting last. And 2, the technical formalities of the parliamentary process will be dispensed of unless formal request is made for formal procedure by a majority of the town board.
Okay, Ron, can you do number 14?
2214, resolved that the Lansing Town Board will hold the regular town board meetings on the third Wednesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. Meetings will be held at the Town Hall Boardroom, 29 Auburn Road, Lansing, New York. 2 additional regular meetings will be held on Wednesday, September 28th and November 9th, 6:30 p.m. Special meetings will be held as needed.
Okay, Ruth, will you do 22-15?
Resolution 2215, resolve, the public will be given the opportunity to address the town board up to 3 minutes per person on any issue of concern near the beginning of every town board meeting. Immediately after the public comment period, each town board member will be given 2 minutes to respond to public comments. The post-public comments discussion will be limited to the members of the town board unless the town board waives this rule by majority vote.
Okay, Joe, why don't you do 16 and 17, please?
Resolved that the town officers, authorized personnel, and highway superintendent are hereby allowed the allowable rate by the IRS for the use of their private personal automobiles in the performance of their official duties. 22-17, resolved that the highway superintendent be authorized to purchase equipment, tools, and implements not to exceed the amount of $2,500 without prior notice or approval. I have a quick question on that one. That number of $2,500 was back when we had a procurement policy that had that as the amount needed in order to not have to get 3 quotes. Do we want to adjust that number given that prices and stuff have gone up?
How about if we get some input from our highway superintendent?
Certainly.
Mike, you want to jump to the microphone here and
I vote yes.
This was already done in 2019.
Right.
Procurement policy was gone through. And the threshold was set at $5,000, 0 to 5,000. One quote is needed, one verbal quote. So yeah, that should be adjusted
so what do you recommend this be adjusted to?
to the procurement policy of $5,000.
Okay. So do we want to continue the resolution as per the suggested change?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a good change. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I think you saved us some time, Joe. Thank you. Okay. Resolution 22-18 resolved that the vouchers for claims for the general fund, highway fund, capital projects, drainage districts, lighting districts, sewer districts, water districts, and trust and agencies be presented and audited in accordance with the town law, Article 8, and any related provisions, rules, or regulations of the state comptroller. Said presentation and audit to take place by the town board at each regular town board meeting. Be it further resolved that in accord with the certification and other requirements of town law 118, the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to make payment upon utility bills and postage prior to the audits of vouchers conducted pursuant to town law 1182. Andra, the next one.
Resolution 2219, resolve that Supervisor Edward Levine be named budget officer and that bookkeeper Charmaine Ronge be named co-budget officer for the year 2022 to serve at the pleasure of the town board.
Why don't you do the next one also? I don't know if you have to read all the salaries. I would just say as per, unless you want to, it's up to you.
As per noted.
As per noted. That was the word
I was gonna say, I think you could probably to save, some of these are pretty long to save some time. You might want to just read the resolution number and just see if people have questions, because people can read.
Yeah.
Resolution 2220, resolve that the annual salaries for town officers as compiled in the general budget for 2022 be as follows. So it goes from the supervisor, councilperson, highway superintendent, town justice, and town clerk. And it is further resolved that the supervisor be authorized to pay the above salaries that are listed.
Okay. Brown, you want to do 22-21?
Sure. 2221, resolved that the town board hereby establishes the following standard hours per month as required for determination of requirement benefits for town officials. I'm not going to read through each job detail. I don't think that
As
makes
per
sense.
noted. As per noted.
As per noted, there we go.
Okay, Ruth, 22-22.
Okay.
Please.
Resolution hiring part-time seasonal employees for parks and recreation and campground manager for the town of Lansing. The following resolution was duly presented for consideration by the town board. Whereas there is a need for 12 part-time seasonal laborers 12 part-time lifeguard positions, and 12 part-time recreation assistant positions at the town of Lansing. And whereas acceptable and qualified candidates will be identified and selected by the Parks and Recreation Supervisor and are therefore proposed to be hired to fulfill such job requirements. And, oh my goodness, this is wrong.
Sorry, Ruth.
Okay. Whereas there is a need for a part-time seasonal worker position for Myers Park campground manager in the town of Lansing. And whereas an acceptable and qualified candidate will be identified and selected by the Parks and Recreation Supervisor to fill the Myers Park campground manager position and are therefore proposed to be hired to fulfill such job requirements. And whereas that said positions have been classified and deemed as civil service seasonal worker positions by the Tompkins County Department of Personnel. And whereas the town of Lansing supervisor has recommended that the above positions be filled at the town of Lansing. And whereas upon a review and discussion of the matter, the town board of the town of Lansing has hereby resolved that the Parks and Recreation Supervisor is hereby approved to hire seasonal laborers, lifeguards, and recreation assistants employees in the Parks and Recreation Department at a pay grade not to exceed $25 per hour. And resolved that a Myers Park campground manager hereby is approved to be employed as a part-time seasonal campground manager worker at a rate of $300 per week effective May 1st, 2022. And it is further resolved that the appropriate town officer be and hereby is authorized to make such changes to the town's employment and civil service rosters to file the required civil service forms to effect such changes for this resolution and to file Form 428S if required.
Well done. Okay, Joe, 22-23. Why don't you do 23, 24, and 25? Okay?
Okay, sure. 22-23, resolved that the supervisor with town board input may direct the investment of general funds, special direct funds, and highway money not obligated or required for immediate expenditure or distribution in United States Treasury bills, savings accounts, time deposits, or time certificates of deposit through the town's official depository banks, with said deposits or investments to be payable or redeemable at the option of the supervisor within such times that the proceeds may be needed to meet expenditures for which the monies were provided, all pursuant to provisions of the investment policy of the town. 22-24, resolved that the town deputy clerk, the deputy town clerk, and information aide in the town clerk's office are authorized to issue accessible parking permits. 22-25, resolved that the Ithaca Journal be designated as the official newspaper for the town of Lansing.
Good. Okay, resolution 22-26, resolved that the following appointments made by the supervisor be accepted. As per noted, I will open it up to anybody having any discussions, comments, concerns, changes pertaining to the liaisons and such people that are listed in the positions. Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you everyone for volunteering for these positions. It is much appreciated. Okay, 22-27, resolved that bookkeeper, co-budget officer be appointed voting member of the Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium's Board of Directors, and town supervisor be appointed as alternate, while bookkeeper / co-budget officer shall serve as delegate to the Joint Committee on Plan Structure and Design for the year 2022. Andrea, would you do the next one, 22-28?
Resolution 22-28, resolved that the town board appoints the highway superintendent, parks and recreation supervisor, bookkeeper, or information aide for supervisor's office, town clerk, senior court clerk, director of planning, one town board member selected from among the town board, and town supervisor to the workplace violence threat assessment team, and direct them to complete the annually required workplace audit by October 1st, 2022.
Excellent. Okay, Brown one, 22-29, please.
22-29, resolved that the attorney for the town is Guy Crow and that he, his firm Thaler & Thaler PC, be consulted on an as-needed basis, and that the town supervisor be authorized to execute the 2022 council engagement letter.
Okay, Ruth, will you please do 22-30 and 31?
Okay. Resolved that the town board of the town of Lansing does hereby appoint Insero and Company as the town accountant for the year 2022 upon further review with the town to obtain services on an as-needed and upon request basis. 22-31, resolved that the town engineer for the town of Lansing, David A. Herrick, PE of TG Miller PC, and he and his firm be consulted on an as-needed basis.
Okay, Joe, can you do 22-32, please?
22-32, whereas the town of Lansing will be attending the New York State Association of Towns Conference and Training Session virtually in February, and the annual meeting scheduled for February 20th and 23rd, 2022. Whereas the town needs to designate voting and alternate delegates to vote for and on behalf of the town of Lansing for any matter that comes for a vote before the Association of Towns. Therefore, it is hereby resolved that the town board of town of Lansing hereby appoints Councilperson Joseph Wetmore as a voting delegate and Supervisor Edward Levine as its alternate voting delegate. And I have a quick question. Does that limit the number of town board members that can attend this session?
I don't believe so. We've had more than one board member before when we went to New York. Sometimes 5 went. I think though
Okay.
it isn't a quorum as long as you don't meet 3, right?
Yeah,
Right?
any town board members and any staff or personnel or whatever that the town want to authorize to attend, participate in trainings, et cetera, can go and traditionally have gone. The town used to have rules about who could go and how much could be spent. Given that it's virtual this year, that makes it easy. This only addresses who is the official voting delegate for the town, and it really only comes into play in setting the 2022 agenda at the special legislative meeting on the last morning when a muckety muck from Albany usually attends. If you've done it, Joe, you know what I'm referring to. So this is just delegate designation. It's not limiting who can attend. And in fact, I would encourage a lot of people to attend.
I would certainly, especially since it's virtual, I highly recommend it. The training sessions are excellent, and I've gotten a tremendous amount of all of the ones I've gone to.
Yeah, and the zoning and planning updates are generally very well done because they have 1 of 2 speakers every year, and they try to spot trends, not just here's what this case said, here's what that case said. They follow a trend and say, hey, the law is shifting in this area. You might want to be careful. So I would agree. There's a lot of value in them.
Okay. Resolution 22-33, resolved as follows: Country Acres Pet Services is the dog control officer for the town of Lansing. Number 2, the shelter maintained at Country Acres Pet Services is the town of Lansing Dog Shelter. Number 3, the 2022 dog control and shelter agreement between the town of Lansing and Country Acres Pet Services is for a term commencing January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022. Number 4, the town supervisor of the town of Lansing is hereby authorized to sign said agreement. Andra, 22-34.
Authorization to participate in cooperative purchasing of highway services with Tompkins County. Whereas the Office of State Controller has ruled that counties may no longer extend their bids for public work services to political subdivisions, and whereas General Municipal Law Section 119 provides that municipalities may enter into cooperative purchasing agreements to jointly bid needed services, and whereas General Municipal Law Article 5G, Section 119 states that any agreement entered into hereunder shall be approved by each participating municipal corporation or district by a majority vote of its governing body. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Lansing is hereby authorized to participate in the county bid for purchasing highway materials and services as required for the operation of the town highway department. Be it further resolved that the town reserves the right to participate in the state bid for the state bid is low, if the state bid is low.
Okay, Brown, 22-35, please.
2235, resolved that the 2022 agreement for the expenditure of highway monies be approved and signed by the town board, town supervisor, and town highway superintendent.
May I say something?
Yes.
That form is in my office and I'll need everybody to stop in. The whole town board has to sign that. So I'll need everybody to sign in at some point to get that signed.
You have it prepared already?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Ruth, resolution 22-36.
Okay. Resolve that the town clerk's office be the official depository for all town accounts except for town justice accounts.
Joe, 22-37.
22-37, resolved as follows. 1, the town clerk's office will accept payments by cash, check, or credit card for all services in the town's office. In addition, payments for water, sewer, and taxes may be made by credit card or e-check on the town of Lansing's website. 2, the Park and Recreation Department accepts payments by cash, check, or credit card. In addition, payments for recreational programs, camping, and pavilions may be made by credit card on the town of Lansing's Recreation Department website. 3, the Highway and Planning Department accepts payment by cash and check. In addition, plans are in process to start accepting credit card payments in 2022 for permits and fees made by credit card on the town of Lansing's OpenGov website. 4, the Lansing Court accepts payments by cash, credit card, certified bank check, or money order. 5, the town clerk's office, Lansing Court, Planning, Highway and Parks and Recreation Departments have separate processing fees for payment by credit card or e-check, which said fee may be paid in person by using the credit card or e-check. 6, the banking agreement is approved, and each year the service costs will be examined to be determined whether the service should be bid or shopped. And 7, deposits may be made remotely by using the Tompkins Community Bank and digital check scanner. Question.
Yes.
I see that the planning department says that they're going to expand into credit card fees for other things. Does the Parks Department have other things that they may be accepting credit cards online with the new Gov section? Do we need to adjust that in the same way to say that there may be other items that the Parks Department now has that aren't on this list of things that they accept by credit card on their website, but maybe in the future?
No, everything that we have is already online, paid with credit card. So we're good. We're
Okay.
covered. Thank you.
I believe the planning department is catching up, shall we say.
Okay. I just want to make sure that list is exhaustive.
So this one's long. Okay, resolution 22-38. Resolved that the charge for a check to the town returned from the bank is unpaid is $20. I'll do the next one. Resolution 22-39, resolved that the town clerk / receiver of taxes is appointed the keeper and auditor of the 3 petty cash funds in the town clerk office, 1 for water and sewer, 1 for the town clerk, and 1 for receiver taxes. Resolved that the Parks and Recreation supervisor is appointed the keeper and auditor of the petty cash fund in the Parks and Recreation Department. Resolved that the bookkeeper is appointed the keeper and auditor of the petty cash fund in the supervisor's office. Resolved that the senior court clerk is appointed the keeper and auditor of the petty cash funds in the court office. Okay, Andra, 22-40, please.
Resolution 22-40. Resolved that the salaries for the public officers that are a member of the town of Lansing Planning Board will be paid $750 with the December vouchers. The Lansing Planning Board chairperson will be paid $1,500 with the December vouchers. If a member is appointed after January 1st or resigns prior to December 31st, their pay will be prorated based on the number of full months of service. They will be paid with the December vouchers.
Bronwyn, 22-41, please.
2241, resolved the salaries for the public officers that are a member of the Town of Lansing Zoning Board of Appeals will be paid $400 with the December vouchers. The Lansing Zoning Board of Appeals chairperson will be paid $800 with the December vouchers. If a member is appointed after January 1st or resigns prior to December 31st, their pay will be prorated based on the number of full months of service. They will be paid with the December vouchers.
Okay, Ruth 22-42, please.
Okay, resolved that subject to training requirements and formal resolutions for reappointment, the following residents are members of the Town of Lansing Planning Board, and the chairperson is Al
Here, really?
Pirelli, and the vice chairperson is Sandra Dennis Conlon. Norman Lynn Davidson, 12/31/22, Larry Sharpstein, 12/31/24, Sandra Dennis Conlon, 12/31/27, Al Pirelli, 12/31/25, Deborah Trumbull, 12/31/23, Dean Shea, 12/31/26, Thomas Butler, 12/31/28, and Dale Baker, first alternate, 12/31/22, and Aaron Worsel, second alternate, 12/31/22.
Good. Joe, resolution 22-43, please.
22-43, resolved that subject to the training requirements and formal resolutions for reappointment, the following residents are members of the Town of Lansing Zoning Board of Appeals, and the chairperson is Judith Drake. Judith Drake, 12/31/23, Mary Stowe, 12/31/24, Richard Hayes, 12/31/25, John Jack Young, 12/31/26, and Susan Tabrizi, 12/31/22.
Okay, Joe, you want to do the next one, 22-44?
I'm going to butcher the names, but sure.
I'll do
The
it.
following residents are members of the Town of Lansing Housing Authority with the following dates or terms for expiring. David Stoyel, 12/31/22, Richard Hayes, 12/31/22, Connie Wilcox, 12/31/25, George Glesson, 12/31/24, Charla Hayes, 12/31/22, Sharon Jackson, 12/31/23, and Dennis Mogul, 12/31/23. And I guess I have a question for Guy. If we're appointing the board members here, is that different than the fire department? I'm not understanding.
Well, I'm not sure I said it was different than the fire department. We're performing a statutory duty by appointing the directors that will manage a public authority called the Lansing Housing Authority. It's a separate legal entity that is its own compliance obligations. If one of the people that serves on that board haven't met their training requirements, then the Lansing Housing Authority is supposed to address that. So,
Okay,
and I say, yeah, it doesn't, there seems to be a logical disconnect in there, but the answer doesn't turn upon in what exact manner they may be affiliated or presumed affiliated with the town. It turns on who do they report to? Who is their employer? Are they a separate legal entity? So we can appoint a fire chief, and it's up to the fire district to make sure that he's trained, and we can appoint a person to a housing authority, and it's up to that housing authority to make sure that those people have met their training requirements under the housing authority law. I mean, the labor
Okay.
law applies to all of these entities, but we're not the direct employer.
okay. It just feels a little different when we're appointing the entire board, but you're telling me it's not different, and I accept that answer. Thank you.
Okay. Resolution 22-45, resolved that the following people are members of the Town of Lansing Water and Sewer Advisory Board: Mike Mosley, Mark Terrell, Guy Crow, David Herrick, Scott Russell, CJ Randall, Ed Levine, Greg Weatherby, Steve Riddle, and John Gutenberg. Excuse me. Andra, 22-46.
Resolution 2246, resolved that the following people are members of the Town of Lansing Project Review Committee: Al Fiorella, Donald Harner, David Herrick, Guy Crow, Mike Mosley, Scott Russell, and John Sepper.
Brown, I'm sorry. That's okay. Brown, resolution 22-47, please.
2247, resolved that the following persons are appointed as members of the Town of Lansing Parks, Recreation, and Trails Committee formed pursuant to the comprehensive plan of the town of Lansing and memorialized in resolution 19-160, with each appointee to serve for a concurrent 2-year term expiring upon December 31st, 2023. Patrick Tyrell, chairperson, Katrina Binkowitz, Ronnie Hardaway, Becca Lovenheim, Deborah Trumbull, and Jack Young.
Ruth, 22-48, please.
Resolved that the following persons remain as members of the Agricultural and Farmland Protection Committee formed pursuant to the agricultural and comprehensive plans of the town of Lansing, with each appointee to serve for a concurrent 3-year term expiring upon December 31st, 2022. John Fleming, Todd Eldred, Norman and Lynn Davidson, and Al Farrell.
Okay, Joe, 22-49, please.
I've got a quick question about that one. It's just clarification. This is the same committee that has a lot of people up in the liaisons, right? Like there's like 4 or 5 people, including Monica Roth and Joe and Andra. It's just in 2 different places. Is that correct?
There are several liaisons listed, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, that was why I was confused. And it looks like there's a whole committee up there and a whole committee down here, and I just was confused. Okay, thank you.
There seems to be more liaisons than there is committee.
Maybe that's
Okay, where am I again?
So,
Can you give me a resolution number? I'm jumping
just-
back and forth.
Joe, time out. So I.
No, which number? I've been bouncing back and forth. I'm trying to find my,
2248 is what we were just
We were
talking.
discussing that. I think one of
Thank
the
you.
reasons is because, okay, Joe and board, one of the reasons I think there's that many members is because a lot of them didn't do their training.
exactly.
Otherwise, you had like 8 people on there, 10 people on there. So I think there's a reason. It's an anomaly, I think, more than anything else.
Yes. And
So,
hopefully we can recruit some more people onto that committee. 22-49. Resolved that the following persons remain as members of the Conservation Advisory Council, and the co-chairs are Tom Butler and Carrie Capincolaire. Robin Bailey, 12/31/22. Tom Butler, 12/31/22. Edward Duvay, 12/31/23. Karen Edelstein, 12/31/22. John Fleming, 12/31/23. Carrie Capincolaire, 12/31/23. Evan Ogta, 12/31/22. Todd Walter, 12/31/23. And David Wolf, 12/31/23.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 22-50. Resolved that the following persons are members of the Lansing Advisory Committee on Power Plant Future. And the chairperson is Sue Ruoff, and the vice chair is Hillary Lambert. All members' terms expire on December 31st, 2022. Hillary Lambert, Dr. William Bill Claypack, Robert Burt Bland, Derek Osborne, E. Lauren Chambliss, Leon Zaharis, Sue Ruoff, and Ethan Bodnar. Andra, 22-51, please.
2251, resolved that the following persons remain as members of the Broadband Committee and co-chairs are Joseph Whitmore and Ronald Mosi. All members' terms expire December 31st, 2022. Jay Spacey, Chuck Bartosh, Norman L. Davidson, Dan Ferguson, Ronald Mosi, and Deborah.
Okay, Rowan, resolution 22-52, please.
2252, resolved, there is hereby created the Town of Lansing Capital Improvement Committee. Such committee may adopt its own internal procedures and shall be an advisory committee. The committee shall consist of not less than 5 nor more than 9 members, each to be appointed by the town board annually to serve 1-year terms based upon a calendar year with no restriction upon the number of terms, consecutive or otherwise, a member may serve. The chair and any vice chair of the committee is or are to be recommended and proposed by the committee annually to the town in December, and the town board shall review and approve or appoint such chair and vice chair, if applicable, annually at its organizational meeting. Absent a recommendation being received on or before January 1st annually, the town board may select such officers as it elects irrespective of the committee's recommendations or lack thereof. The following persons are members of the Capital Improvement Committee, and the chair is Ed Levine, Town Supervisor. All members' terms expire December 31st, 2022. Town Supervisor Ed Levine, Councilperson Ruth Groff, Attorney for the Town Guy Crow, Town Engineer David Herrick, Director of Planning CJ Randall, Chairperson of the Planning Board Al Fiorelli, Bookkeeper Mary Ellen Albrecht, Highway Superintendent Mikey Mosley, and Parks and Recreation Supervisor Patrick Tyrell.
I actually just noticed there's a typo there. Mary Ellen's title is information aide, not bookkeeper. I didn't catch that before, so I can change that.
Okay, so as for change, if the board agrees, we'll move on. Okay, so Ruth, resolution 22-53, please.
Okay. Resolved, there is hereby created the Town of Lansing Code Revision Committee. Such committee may adopt its own internal procedures and shall be an advisory committee. The committee shall consist of not less than 5 nor more than 9 members, each to be appointed by the town board annually to serve 1-year terms based upon a calendar year, with no restriction upon the number of terms, consecutive or otherwise, the member may serve. The chair and any vice chair of the committee is or are to be recommended and proposed by the committee annually to the town in December, and the town board shall review and approve or appoint such chair and vice chair if applicable annually at its organizational meeting. Absent a recommendation being received on or before January 1st annually, the town board may select such officers as it elects irrespective of the committee's recommendations or lack thereof. The following persons are members of the Code Revision Committee, and the chair is Ed Levine, Town Supervisor. All members' terms expire December 31st, 2022. Judy Drake, ZBA Chair, Al Fiorelli, Planning Board Chair, Guy Crow, Town Council, Ed Levine, Town Supervisor, CJ Randall, Director of Planning, Scott Russell, Code Enforcement Officer, Joe Wetmore, Town Board Member, and John Zepko, Town Planner.
Okay, thank you. Joe, resolution 22-54, please.
Resolution 22-54. Resolved that in reference to the town's procurement policy, department heads will adhere to the town of Lansing's procurement policy.
Why don't you do the next one?
Next
Also?
one? Yeah.
Please.
Resolution 22-55. Resolved that the town board, planning board, and zoning board will attend mandatory training sessions on handling conflict facilitated heating meetings.
Why don't you do the next one also, please?
Okay. 22-56. Resolution authorizing execution of agreement with Tompkins County Soil and Water Conservation District for stormwater and technical services. I don't think we need to read all the detail, do you?
Just the resolve part.
Resolved that the town board of the town of Lansing authorizes the town supervisor to execute an agreement for services with Tompkins County Soil and Water Conservation District, which shall commence on January 20th, 2022 and terminate on December 31st, 2022.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 22-57. Resolved that in addition to any enforcement or similar officers identified in the town code of the town of Lansing, parentheses, the town code, the following officers and employees are confirmed and appointed as enforcement officers for the following chapters of the town code for all interpretations, applications, enforcement, permitting, and other matters contained in each chapter therein, so noted. As per our packet, resolution, thank you, Rhonda, for that suggestion. Resolution 22-58, resolved that the town board of the town of Lansing does hereby approve the following town clerk's 2021 annual report, water and sewer collection report, and receiver of tax report as set forth below, so noted. And brings us to resolution 22-59. Resolved that the town board of the town of Lansing does hereby approve the following 2022 town of Lansing Parks and Recreation Department fees and code office subdivision and building permit fees. Be it further resolved that these 2022 Lansing Parks and Recreation Department fees and code office subdivision and building permit fees be and remain subject to amendment throughout the year by the town board, so noted in the packet. Long pause, commercial break, coming back. Is there anything else? Zoning. Did I miss anything? The resolutions, or was that the last one? Okay, I'll ask again. We didn't miss anything, right? So now, Mrs. Munson, I think you got the helm on this.
No, you just need to do 2260.
So we did miss one.
No, that's the 2260 is doing the first and the second, and now do the roll call vote.
Resolution adopting 2022 organization resolution, item number 7, right? And that is in the weeds, okay?
Oh, okay.
It's on page 28. If you're,
There it is, thank you. Okay, so someone like to move resolution adopting 2022 organizational resolution 22-6 through
I'll move it.
22-9. Okay. Any seconds?
Second it.
Andrew seconds it. Any
no,
further?
that was Root. Was it Root?
Andrew.
Oh, it was okay, sorry.
We just went through 53 of these. Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson,
Yes.
Ruth Croft,
Yes.
Bronwyn Losi,
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore,
Yes,
Edward Levine.
Yes, well done, everyone. Okay, that brings us to item 8. Right, that was agenda item 7. Item 8 is the town historical report by Louise Dement. It's in your packet. Agenda number 9 is the Tompkins County Youth Service Report by Lisa Campbell. So that brings us to item 10, which is the Lansing Community Library Report by Christine Eisenhut. Andre, you want to add anything to this? Okay. Item 11 in your packet, agenda item Lansing Youth Service Report by Megan Lyons. Item 12, Tompkins County Legislative Report, Mike Sigler. We seem to have something written out by Michael. Do you want to add anything to this?
No. You want me to give it or you want me to?
It's entirely up to you, my friend. And we read these all the time, but it's entirely, if you want to give us the highlights, that's fine.
I will be very.
Perfect, thank you.
Because first, I want to congratulate Ruth and for Joe for winning their elections.
I can't hear you, Mike. Can you speak right into the microphone, please?
I'm sorry. I was congratulating you and Ruth on your victories and now being on the town board. Well, you already on the town board, but you understand. And I also want to congratulate our 5 new legislators this term, Veronica Pillar, Travis Brooks there from the city of Ithaca, Greg Manson, he is from Dryden, but he also owns the marina right here in town. So has some Lansing ties. Lee Shirtley, been around the county for a long time. He's going to represent Groton, and Randy Brown in Newfield. So those are the 5 new legislators. We've all been assigned new committees. I'm going to be on the IDA again. What else? So I'll be pretty happy with economic development, although I'll be on Health and Human Services again. We're going to throw housing over into Health and Human Services. So that should be a pretty good committee to be on. I'll also be on public safety, and with the whole reimagining, that's also a good, good committee to be on. Shauna Black, now our legislative chair. So congratulations to Shauna for that. Deborah Dawson from representing the other part of Lansing here. She is the vice chair. So basically the leadership of the legislature is now on the hill here. So that's kind of exciting. And it was a very productive year for the county. IDA, we were able to get a labor policy in place. So I was pretty happy to be able to be the head of the subcommittee for that. We were able to bring that forward, hammer it out, and get it passed, which was no small feat after 8 years. We did a lot of our bargaining units are done. We've got contracts in place now. We only have 1 left, and that's really about it. Those are the big oversights. So I won't take up any more of your time. I didn't.
You're awesome.
All right. Any questions? All right. You guys have a good night.
You too. Take care. Agenda item number 13, your Packer Park and Recreation Report by Pat Terrell.
The only thing I'll add is we had excavators pulled in today to the park, so we are ready to start the bulkhead project,
Okay,
and we'll start digging tomorrow.
that's exciting. Mother Nature was kind to us today, which is nice. Couple things, if people want to know what the bulkhead is, that is the entrance of the marina. It's where the lighthouse starts. It's that wall right there, that seawall that we've been trying for a week. Pat and his group have been trying for a couple of years to get done. That's why you see some of the material at the bottom of Myers Road there being stored from last year, because Mother Nature wouldn't let us do it that year, but hopefully she'll be kind enough this year.
Side note, our boat launch will be closed until that project is completed. If someone decides to launch their boat, it will not be from Myers Park.
So noted, and we can post that right on the Facebook and.
Well, it's blocked off by snow right at the moment, so there's no way to get in there.
Okay.
So our boat launch will be closed until the bulkhead is project.
Correct.
Okay, I'll make sure to put that in here, unless you are, I think you might have that in here,
I
actually.
might have put it in there.
Okay,
Yeah, I think I remember reading that.
anything else?
That's it.
Anything
Yes,
for?
it is in here.
It is in there.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments for Pat? Okay, I got two items. First one, as you probably saw on Facebook, amongst other things, the dedication of the field for Jeff Bowles. And he's reached out to me, and I always enjoy talking to him. He's a very insightful, enlightened person. He reminds me a lot of Kyle Dake, which means he did not waste any of his talents, in my opinion. So he would like me to read some comments to the town board. He says, "Dear town board members, I want to express my deepest heartfelt appreciation to the recent addition to the Jeff Bowles Field. I am very blessed to live in a town where so many have embraced me over the years. Keep up the great work, and together we can continue to make the town of Lansing great." Amen, my brother. It's good. Good for him. Well deserved. If any of you have ever worked with him, he's one of these people that works in front of the scenes, behind the scenes. He just wants to make things better than he found them, which is my mantra. And I embrace his attitude and appreciate all the effort he's done. One more thing, as you all know, we have the grant for Myers Park. And let's get some clarity here of the $750,000. That is not the total cost of the project. A lot of stuff may be in kind, it may have to be outsourced. These are basically for the soft costs. And those are things as we get our website together and we get more information out to people, we will be able to give them a more accurate description of as we progress. And this is something that will not be done by the spring of this year. We all hope that would be, but it may take a year or two to do. But once again, at one time it was a marsh and now it is a jewel, and we're going to make it shine a little bright. So that is what we have as far as the grant goes.
So the grant was 750,000?
Right, correct, CJ? $750,000.
Correct.
And CJ and Pat are working together. They have their master plan. We try to implement this, move it forward, and once again, make it better. So that's all I have for Park and Rec. We go to the highway, and Mike, thank you so much and your crew for being rock stars these last couple of days with the snow and everything. Once again, we're very blessed to have an exceptional crew. So go ahead.
You beat me to the punch. I want to say first and foremost, thank you to my crew. Monday was a long, tough day. I think they logged 11 or 12 hours. Thanks to Pat, gave me a little help. A couple guys, I'm a couple down, sickness, surgery, so on and so forth. So thank you, Pat. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Got my packets here before you. If anybody has any questions, be happy to answer them.
Any questions for our highway superintendent, Mike Mosley?
Well, actually, what I would like to do is, Mikey sent us a really nice pair of detailed reports on two different roads. That the question is how to deal with them. And I would like to make both of those reports public. I would like to do it for a couple of reasons. One, I think that the public needs to understand what the information is that we're making our decisions on. And two, I like to get feedback from the public on these reports and, get other people's input on them as well. And so I would like to move that we make both those reports publicly available to anyone who wants to look at them.
I would like to defer to council first to see if this is the appropriate time to make that information public yet or not. After all, he is our counsel, and I would ask guys' opinion on that, if this is the appropriate time to make that public, or is there still some work that needs to be done before we can make it public?
Can I add one side note? I did just get information to Ruth, I think yesterday, the day before. So she might need to catch up, just FYI.
So
Okay,
guys,
so we're talking about interagency materials that are prepared to assist the town in deliberating and making legislative or policy decisions regarding municipal infrastructure. So it brings to light the tension that exists between the wonderfully written open meetings law and FOIL. If someone were to put in a FOIL request for those documents, they do exist. There may be tabulations or factual tabulations in there that may not be exempt under FOIL, but as interagency materials, the town could claim a FOIL exemption because they were prepared on an interim basis to help with the formulation of final policy. They are not in and of themselves final policies. But FOIL is permissive. If you, well, to a certain point, it's permissive. You can't waive someone's HIPAA medical rights. But on a document like this, the town certainly can, if it chooses to, decide not to maintain confidentiality, not to maintain the privileges and benefits of the deliberative legislative process, and can open it up more for whatever reason, whether it's to get information, to cause a result, to prevent a result, whatever the purpose is. I would leave that decision to the discretion of the town board. However, my concern is patent. And the reason that I have a concern is that the last time that this type of matter was brought to the fore, it was discussed aggressively in privilege of the floor before the town board was ever able to consider the information and deliberate upon it. And the net result of all of that pressure was that the can was kicked down the road and no decision was made. So now we're paying for yesterday's sins. And I have doubt that the best solution is let's redo what we did last time, but that's not my call to make. If you get to the point when you're done with your deliberations and you want to inform your decision and make a final policy decision, then certainly they probably are subject to FOIL at that time. In terms of the open meetings law, they fall into that same exemption as legislative and deliberative documents. They were intended to be the subject of a closed session so that you could get specific legal advice pertaining to what is there, considering that one of them is a legal memorandum, which outlines a myriad of possible choices and sets forth what the standards of proof are and the strengths and weaknesses of the case of the town is. If you think that there's a benefit to the town and its fiscal interests by disclosing that publicly, then feel free to do so. I would tend to disagree, but that's just that's just my opinion. I think timing is more important, but you guys decide. It's your document at this point. I would also caution, as the New York Court of Appeals has done on many an occasion, that if you subject every single thing that your staff and officers gives you to extreme public scrutiny before you even get into the deliberative and decision-making process, don't later be heard to complain that people aren't willing to give you what you think you want. because staff and employees, just like police officers in the famous case by the Court of Appeals, don't want to get thrown under the public bus before they've even had a chance to consider what are the best possible alternatives and why. But again, the town can make that decision, and I'll be happy to provide that case once again, because I believe it is very instructive on what the underlying purpose of the legislative exemptions in FOIL and the open meetings law are, including various privileges that would be implicated and by that act perhaps waived. So proceed as you wish. That's my advice.
Okay. Having said that, how do the other board members feel? Andrea?
Oops. I wish I could say I understood everything that I said. I did follow it. I guess I would like to review it before I make a decision.
I'm having
Okay.
trouble hearing Andra.
I said I'd like to review it before I make a decision, because I can't remember all the details.
Okay. Bronwyn?
Yeah, I'm feeling similarly. I think it's important to make as much public as we can, and I think letting people take a look at the engineer's report and such is important. But I feel like with the legal implications, I haven't reviewed it enough, thoroughly enough to feel comfortable making a decision about this. But I'd like to sort of put it on our agenda for next meeting to talk with Guy with any questions we have, so then next meeting we can get it public.
Okay. Welcome to the board, Ruth. You know, we don't have a apprenticeship here, so here we are. So your thoughts, please. I don't want to put you on the spot, but on the other hand, you're an equal voting member here. So what are your thoughts, please?
Well, I sort of on the same opinion that Ron and Andrew are, that I even though you said it to me, I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I don't know what details included in that. But I'm sort of torn on this one, to be honest with you, because I do believe that the public has should be as informed as they can be. On the other hand, as Guy said, we need to be very careful before deliberation about what the public does have.
Okay, Joe, still feel the same way?
I would like to move a process to open up the engineering reports. I was not thinking of putting the legal advice as public necessarily, but can we put it on the agenda for next month that we're going to discuss, what do you call it, making all or at least part of the engineer's reports public, so that the public can see what we're discussing and what we're thinking about?
Well, I think what I would do is we'll put it on a working session to talk about it. I also want to go a little bit deeper to see what the ramifications are about this if we're premature about certain things. It's not, in my opinion, I don't think we're hiding anything. It's simply that we're still gathering information before we make a decision in the best interest of the whole town. And so I would feel comfortable putting it on the agenda for next month. That may give us a chance to also look at it. I would also ask that, since this isn't public information, that it stay not public information and doesn't get leaked to people as of yet, because sometimes information can get out and people jump to a conclusion when we haven't got the full information. So I think we've come to a consensus that we'll at least put it on the discussion for next month to do it in a working session and to see what we're comfortable moving forward with our attorney's advice. Because after all, God forbid something happens that the town gets challenged with, who do we call? Guy, here we are. So
Well,
at least
Yeah, I just want to make clear that I think if you're going, there are less concerns with the engineering report than with the legal analysis,
Yeah.
obviously. And to the extent that the engineering report might be a compilation of data or something like that, and non-advisory in that sense, I think it is advisory. I think when you get to the point where you're going to deliberate it publicly, either because of the open meetings law, section 103, some summary or redacted version of it might be appropriate to release for that meeting with the full report to go at whatever point is appropriate. But the question as it was posed to me was the internal communications, both reports, and there are a lot of legal issues hiding in some of that stuff. There are even more fiscal issues hiding in some of that stuff. So I think before we get to the next meeting, we should probably take a closer look at what is and what is not public, because all someone has to do is submit a FOIL request and they'll force that same question. And since it's obvious that someone would submit a FOIL request, why don't we just stay on the front edge of the problem and try to create a, for lack of a better term, less secretive process without waiving privileges.
Okay. Good.
I would also encourage staff, everyone from our engineer to highway superintendent to parks, anyone who's seen this, to come forward to me and other board members and say if there's a problem they see in releasing part or any parts of this report, so that I'm aware of any concerns before our next meeting.
That we're aware of any concerns for the next
Yeah.
meeting. I think that
Yeah.
for the board members, once again, internal documents are meant to be internal. You go through the FOIL process, we refer back to legal counsel to say what should be redacted and what shouldn't, because the bottom line is we are protecting the entire town. And at some point, I think a decision will be made. We can move forward with that. Having said that, I think we've come to a conclusion that we can move forward for next month. Are there any other comments or questions for our highway superintendent?
I just want to commend the crew on the job they've been doing on clearing the streets. This weekend was a really tough job in which they were constantly out there cleaning, and the streets were clear through a difficult time period. And I really appreciate the work you and your crew put forward. And I know it's a real team effort.
So once again, we've had a couple of trucks down. We have a couple of people out. Next person up, thanks to Pat and his crew, because we have more people with B licenses and everything else. And that was the intent, is to have an overabundance of people to go at this in case somebody, like we did 3 years ago when 3 were out with the flu. So thank you. I will say this on a different note, and once again, this job is such a learning curve. Sometimes I think it's almost straight up, that I learned about catch basins. And catch basins are those things where you have storm drains and they go into someplace. And that someplace is where you, for lack of a better term, catch the water and it basically gets absorbed into the ground. Not knowing that we had 70 of these, and they have to be, am I right?
112 Angel from Soil and Water.
New data, okay, 112 of these, and they have to be cleaned at a regular time, because now the way that the weather is, we get these quick and very strong storms, and the flood water comes and takes a lot of debris. So where am I going with this? This is one of the things that in the next month or so, when we put all the money together at the end of the year, this is where it would have been really nice to have the vac truck, because this is another use for it. And we didn't get this. CJ, it's not a criticism, because you've been doing miracles. So you know how this works, right? So there, I will put some proposals together for the town to discuss on how we can get the yes on the back truck and get the yes on the storm or on the bank stabilization for Ludlow, for that one, okay? Just because we were told no by those 2 grants doesn't mean we can't get the yes another way, and we'll go from there. One more thing is that now is the time. I don't know if you put this proposal again to the board, but you put about $700,000 as your projection for road maintenance this year. Now, once again, we'll segue into ARPA money, and the new rules and regulations of the ARPA money seem to be there are no rules and regulations for ARPA money. It's like it's almost, and CJ has more of this, okay? So the highway department did not have to give up that $200,000 2 years ago or last year. They didn't have to do this. I would strongly urge that the board consider having Mike start buying some stone, because he wants to do a lot of stone and oil. Joe, you're very familiar with this, past Red Bridge out your way. Sorry, we can't pave it, but this is one way to maintain those roads. I know a lot of people who do bicycles there don't like it, but this year is going to be the year of paving, right, Michael?
16.86 miles is what I'm looking to do.
16.86
miles. And that's, hot mix plus surface treatment, stone and oil. I mean, it's a wish list. It's the 400,000 for road improvements, it's 200,000 hopefully coming back in from ARPA. And I do have some rollover from CHIPS, Pave New York, and early winter recovery to the total of $121,599.21. So that's where I came up with the number at the top, which is well above, I know, the 400,000, but ask for it all and see where it lands.
The other thing to keep in mind is we have one more month of sales tax. You looked at the supervisor's report and you look at the B and DB sections for revenue streams, that does not include November. So you had November and December. We had November sales tax come in again above last year. And the projections are close to almost a $500,000 increase over last year, or what our projections are, what we wanted for 2021. Right now, we're at 80% for the highway, 20% for code and planning. Roughly, that would mean almost a $400,000 swing for these gentlemen and $100,000 for CJ's department. Next year, it goes to this 2022, the ratio is 28% for CJ's department and 72% for you, because we have additional people in that department. I'm throwing those numbers out there.
You left out a department.
Oh, no.
Mine got one.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You left out departments.
Excuse me, this is the B, excuse me, do a timeout. This is the B and the DB, we're only talking sales tax. Okay, we're talking sales tax here, so.
We like money.
Yeah.
So, having said that, you look at Pat had an exceptional year this year. I have to calm him down here. Exceptional year this year, look at the supervisor's report, exceptional year this year. He is being very methodical with the people that are coming in. If you do not have your sticker, we want to look at your driver's license. If you're not a Lansing resident, it's $7. We also did it with pavilions. We also did it with other stuff.
I even choked you up.
Which is, and Debbie has done, as Joe has mentioned, one of his favorite things is dog licenses. That is exceeded, and we know that. So getting back to Pat, we're looking very intensely at the residential center again, because we need more campsites, we need more pavilions, we need more entertainment, we need more
Gym space.
gymnasium,
Gym
gym
space.
space.
Gym space.
So I'm all planting seeds out here so that we talk about this in the next few months. It won't be, what are you talking about, Ed? Okay, so that's all I got for now, and we're not stopping. So on that note, we got the highway done. Thank you again. We're gonna go in executive session. It's only January, but I had a nap today, so what's up? So,
I think we've just driven to Buffalo and back on the highway.
Yeah.
so do we need you?
I'm
for-
exhausted.
Do we need you for executive session?
What's that?
Do we need you for executive session?
That's where CJ's going, I guess. CJ?
We have these other reports here. I hate to move stuff up. But before we get into working session, do we want to go into executive session to talk about employees? Or not?
I have no problem if CJ's interested.
I mean, how's the board feel about this? The only reason I want to move with my head is because I want to get him out of here because he's been up since 5. By the way, thank you for not the phone call today. I appreciate that at 5 o'clock.
I totally appreciate not wanting to keep Mikey here any longer than he has to. He gets up way too early in the morning for staying up late at night.
Yes, I'm sorry. You're right. CJ, we need to do your report first. I'm bouncing around a little bit here. So apologies. So CJ, you're up next and we'll slide over. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. I'll keep it short. Any questions on the reports? I did want to mention to follow up Ed's comments about the WQIP. We were pretty alarmed to see that Tompkins County in general didn't get any water quality improvement program money at all. And so we are so blessed to have the help of Tompkins County Soil and Water Conservation District, and they've set us up with the DEC to do a debriefing on the 2 applications. So Mikey and I will be doing that next Thursday, the 27th with DEC. So hopefully we can get some leads on that. We thought that the applications were very competitive because of the TMDL for Cayuga Lake, the total maximum daily load for I won't go into detail on that, but in any event, I think we're pretty good candidates for this. And the good news is I've been contacted by Central New York Planning on behalf of Department of State, and they intend to elevate this project and bring it to the attention of, I guess, somebody doing some prioritization on what will be the top 5 projects within the watershed. And this project will be among them. So we are not giving up. And we, continue on, and we'll get these projects funded one way or another. So we'll keep you posted.
Any questions for CJ? One thing I will share that does not have to go into executive session is we're looking at a part-time building inspector, safety inspector. And we have had one person that is employed at the town that has gone through all the certifications and has done the test, so to speak. So that is something that will be discussed, I think, at the next meeting. That'll be a shared, we're also talking about a shared service with the town of Ithaca, going with code officer. So these are things as we continue to evolve and bring that department up to the 21st century. Those are things that we will look into. Having said that,
Question on that, Ed. We just appointed people to do all these jobs in our resolution here. Are we going to have to amend that to allow other people to do these inspections?
well, I think we may have to, or we may have to expand that until somebody else can do it also. So you're going to have 2 people be able to do it, for instance, instead of 1. And that way, for instance, if we have somebody doing the fire inspection, the safety inspections, for instance, that's something that I think Scott Russell could do now. But it's also something that I think we have another person in mind, or that for that position at least, that could also do it. And that would ease some of the burden off of Scott as he transitions over to other activities. And it could be a shared service between different departments. I think that's something that we should look into seriously. Because eventually I suspect down the road, you may end up with 2 people in the code office as we expand. We've also looked at, I think, the fire inspections, the fees. We try to make the fees comparable to other towns and villages, not to gouge them. But on the other hand, that's a service that's being provided, and it has to come from somewhere, besides sales tax. So that's another way that we do it, through fees. And by the way, CJ also has had an exceptional year with her building permits, amongst other things. Just look at the report and you'll see if you haven't already. So that's all I have for this. I do want to go into executive session and talk about an employee and their performance. And Joe, I'm looking forward to a new card as you go down to New York City every year. Maybe you can have in fact, since you'll be virtual this year on that. I'm trying to look at which category this would be under. And it might be under medical, financial, credit, employment history of a particular person, corporation, matters leading to said dismissal, removal, promotion, appointment, employment discipline, demotion, or suspension.
I'll second the move to executive session.
So Ed, you actually made the motion that you.
Yes, ma'am.
Attempted to do. Joe is a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
So Mrs. Munson, you get to take a break.